Today on In Her Words, we are talking to the very funny Meredith Scardino. Meredith is the creator and writer of Girls5eva, which continues to get Emmy buzz in its third season. If I had to pick a theme for this conversation, it would be support. Meredith talks about the people who have mentored and supported her along the way. Names like Stephen Colbert and Tina Fey. Girls5eva's third season is now on Netflix. Enjoy. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us. It's so exciting. This is an exciting time for you and Girls5eva.
Oh,
It's such a we love. We're having the best time with Emmy season. Okay, do
oh,
you find that anybody that says the title of the show has to have like a little attitude? I can't say it. I can't say it without saying Girls5eva.
yeah, like it does make you kind of like get
Yeah,
in that like, girl band mode.
yeah. You
That
can't. I can't say it without moving my
moving your shoulders.
right, moving my shoulders. You know, where I'm sure my kids would be like, "Okay, mom, cringy, stop moving your
Yeah.
shoulders that way."
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you just can't do it. You just can't do it. So
Yeah.
it's so fun. But it's
Good.
yeah, it's so good to meet you. When I was going through everything for our call, I was just. I mean, you've been involved with just some of my favorite shows, and I fall down laughing at the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I mean,
So
it
fun to
is
work on.
so wrong and so funny and just so great. And then all the people that are involved with this project and that you've been involved with. So um, we always like to, we like to start our podcasts and start our conversations kind of back a little bit
Hmm.
because we have so many students and we have so many people starting out in their careers and we love to hear the real story. We love to
Sure.
hear how hopefully non-linear your path was. If
Oh gosh,
maybe
not
you were,
linear.
maybe you came out as 5-year-old funny, late night show writing Meredith. We
Yeah.
don't know, but just kind of what your journey was and how kind of those twists and turns that you really stumbled over, that you learned from,
Hmm.
that you hurdled with great ease, just all of those those steps that got you where you are today. So we'd love to hear you start with that story.
Sure. I mean, let's see. I grew up outside of Philadelphia. Um, I think when I was first born into this town called Pottstown, uh, which we used to get like the first day of hunting season off. So it was pretty in the boonies. um, and then when I was in fourth grade, we moved to closer to the city to Radnor, which is a really good school district. Um, and but I always growing up, I'm the youngest, which I feel like tracks a lot with entertainment people and art people
Mhm,
generally. Is
mhm.
like no one's watching the youngest, so they watch a lot of TV and they get to do kind of whatever they want. Like my oldest sister, I'm one of three girls, and my oldest sister is a lawyer and just was born like taking care of the rest, being the grown up in the
Right,
room,
right.
and so I was just kind of daydreamer like
Mhm.
always as a kid, and I loved comedy. I would just devour cartoons, sketch shows, stand up, whatever. I just suck it all in. I loved it so much, but I hadn't any clue that it was a I mean, I just had no idea how you would ever on earth get into anything like that. And
Mhm.
so my whole youth and like college, and I went to grad school as well, was all focused on visual arts because
Mhm.
I was a drawer,
Mhm.
painter, whatever. And so I just kind of focused on that, and because I liked it, I loved that as well. And it's like it's also like when you're a kid, you can like do something, or you just like keep following that thing.
Right,
And
right.
so, but it was really once I moved to New York City. I moved to New York City to go to grad school at Parsons.
Mhm.
I got my MFA in painting, and I once I was there, I that's when I started like taking classes at Upright Citizen Brigade in improv,
Okay.
or taking sketch writing classes at UCB.
Mhm.
They have writing classes, or the Pit, or my first writing class ever was at Parsons. You had to take electives, and at the new school, because it's part of the new school,
Mhm.
and they had a writing class, and I took it, and it was writing for I think I was writing for newspapers and magazines, like essays. And I just had a great teacher, Sue Shapiro, who still teaches. And I think everyone in New York has taken her class because she teaches in a new school, but she also teaches just like out of her apartment.
Oh. Did you
And
feel comfortable writing? Did it come easily or
it was really fun. Like I
okay.
just liked how direct she was to you come in every week with
Mhm.
a new piece, some little essay. I can't even remember the topics of any of them, but I just remember being really like excited by it all. And
Mm.
she was very positive, but also like, cut that first. You don't need that. She was real like to the point, like a
Mhm.
lady who had been working in New York, like, wears all black, has black, she's black hair and just seemed cool. And so I just liked her a lot, so I felt like she was really encouraging. And then when I took a lot of other classes, I got. I felt kind of like, oh, I'm with my people, like these just comedy nerds who want to do bits all the time, insufferably, probably to other people. But I really liked it. And then at the time, I was also animating
Mm.
to make
Mm.
money, and I also liked it. But I was doing animated shorts. I kind of
Mhm.
um, taught myself an easy animation program, Flash
Mhm.
animation, and at the time, this was like turn of the century. This is right into early 2000s. There was a lot of appetite for short animation, so I worked for
Mhm.
Comedy Central as an animator. I worked for different independent directors, and um, uh, Bill Plimpton was the
Mhm.
first, who's a amazing, incredible animator. It was like the first person I ever worked for. And then, I kept kind of pushing, wanting to write the things that I was animating. And so at Comedy Central, they let me, I gave them, I just like wrote a bunch of scripts, and I was like, hey, what about these? What can we do these? And do you like any of these? And they did. And so I just got a little bit encouraged here or there. And I
Mhm.
tried
Mhm.
everything. And I got a writing partner at the time, this great guy Ben Tischler, he's still a writer producer. He lives in LA now, but we got the idea that we could like shortcut everything by pitching reality shows. So
Just that was a hot thing, yep.
yeah, so we tried to pitch all these high concept reality shows, which was a great experience of pitching. I mean, we always thought we were about to be like formatted in 180 countries, and we were about to make it big, and then the deal would always fall through. And and then at a certain point, and I wrote a million packets at late night shows to try to get
Uh-huh.
to SNL or Conan or, you know, um, The Daily Show or any of those shows at the time, and definitely got a lot of rejection. It's just part of the gig. It's like rejection is just part of what you do.
And did
The
you did
rare
you
yes. I
yeah,
mean,
did you feel like
so
you were, like, equipped for that? How did you I mean, you were young and an artist.
well,
How did you handle all the re like, who taught you that
rejection.
the rejection was part of it
You
and that
know,
you were
my
going to be okay?
my parents were are resilient. Like my dad is the guy who started a zillion businesses.
Okay.
Like none of them, none of the things that he started make sense. Like that seemed like the same person could have started the
Uh-huh.
next business. Like he's been in, you know, coal logs he was selling for a while. He was insurance salesman. He
Yeah,
um telecom, so he's just done it all. And I
right.
think one time he told me, I have a distinct memory of him saying, like, back when his first job was selling insurance, and he was just like, Meredith, it's numbers. In order to make a sale, do you know, like, I have to make 50 cold calls. One of
Mhm.
those people wants to talk to me again, and then I have to do that, a zillion times and then out of all the people that want to talk to me again, only, let's say out of 20 people that want to talk to me again, only one of them is going to buy a policy. But I have to go through all of those people in order to get the one. And
Right,
so
right.
that always kind of makes me, I just think like you have to get up to bat. And,
Mhm,
and I
mhm.
also think when you're in a writer's room, I think, this is a quality that a lot of people talk about, a lot of other writers talk about, is like people that pitch a lot. I mean, you don't want to pitch ad nauseum so that you're just talking all the time. That sounds horrible. But you want to, all the, I feel like all the people I admire that I've worked with pitch a lot and have a lot of ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and they know that they're not all going to be great,
Right,
but
right.
they're not just waiting for their one winner to say out loud. They're, because so much of it is yes anding each other, and that's stuff you learn in improv, is like somebody has a little germ of something and maybe it's not the right thing, but hey, maybe that gives you an idea that gets you to another thing that maybe
Mm-hmm.
does work, and then that ends up in the show. So I don't know, I mean, between like, and also just when you're art school, you very routinely have to stand up and defend your work.
Right, right.
So you
And get
like put
used
this
to
thing
that.
up,
Yeah.
stayed up all night doing the night before because you're a procrastinator like me,
Yeah.
and then you just stand there, and then people critique it. You have these critiques, and they say negative things, and you kind of try to defend it,
Mhm.
or whatever. So anyway, I was used, and I'm also from a very loud, outspoken family where there's no subtext. So I'm just used to failure
The
being
feedback.
part
And
of
the
my,
feedback.
yeah, part of my daily life is sort of being rejected and failure. So but then I eventually did get my first job as a writer consistently, where I was like, I'm getting a paycheck. I felt like Mary Tyler Moore, like,
Mhm.
in the city, was this show on VH1 called Best Week Ever.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you remember that. It was like a
I
clip
do.
show. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
so fun. It was all the people I used to, go see at ASCAT at UCB that I were like my heroes. And I got to write bits for them, and
Uh-huh.
take in the news and write jokes, and do do interviews, and like
Mhm.
sometimes be in the edit. It was just like, because everyone at VH1 wasn't necessarily getting paid that much, you got a tremendous amount of experience and
Mhm.
got to do a lot of things, which I think really prepared me for the rest of my career. It was a really good foundation, and I worked with a lot of really wonderful people. And Fred Graver, my first boss, was he had, I thought he was awesome because he had written on the for Cheers for a
Yeah.
couple, for some of those seasons, and I knew he had some Emmys. I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm working with him. And then once I kind of got that job and I was there for a while, it was such a great job. I I then was able to get representation, because I did all this without
Mhm.
having
Mhm.
anyone wanting to be like,
Mhm.
I'm representing Meredith Scardino, and so then I got like the manager agent combo, wonderful, uh, just having great reps, and that's when things sort of came more to me, where it was like, hey, they're looking for somebody over at Letterman.
Mhm.
Would you be, you want to go meet over there? And I was like, okay, sure, of course.
Right,
So, and
right.
that's like a guild job, and it was at the end of the Late Show. It was like the
Mhm.
very end. So but what was one crazy story there is like, I had a rare meeting with the head writers before I got the job. Usually you write a packet and then you're brought in,
Mhm.
but I met with them because I was only working a few blocks away, and they go, okay, you got 1 week to write a packet. And then the next day I broke both of my arms.
What?
I was in a bike accident and I
Oh,
broke both
in New
arms.
York City, you fell and broke your arms.
I fell and broke my arms. Yeah. I fell over the
Oh,
handlebars.
oh
And
my God.
and so then it was like, okay, well,
Please
how do
tell,
I
did
write
you
this?
write that? You had to have written that into a story.
Yeah, I mean, it's just almost so absurd. I'm like, would
Right.
anyone believe it? But eventually, so I missed my deadline because I had to get surgery and stuff. But then eventually I did write a packet, and they did still hire me. So I worked there. I worked there for a year and a half, and then I moved over to the Colbert Report, with Stephen Colbert at Comedy Central, and I worked there for 6 years. That was such a incredible experience. I just can't say enough about it. And he was, if you saw that show, it was so fun, and he was such a rabid, like playing with anything that came in, and turning it
Mhm.
into something. I mean,
Mhm.
I went with him when he like testified before Congress. I and to the Olympics in Vancouver, and we just did concerts on the Intrepid. We just did all this crazy, wonderful, exciting, like you're feel alive stuff. Plus, you're just getting to write for his character, which was like a conservative blowhard that was high status but very ill-informed, and so it was a really fun character to write, which I also feel like prepared me for from transitioning from late night to scripted episodic, where you're writing for characters. And I'm like, oh, I already have been writing for a character for all these years. So when I read Tina Fey and Robert Carlock's, I had obviously been a massive fan of theirs because during the, from SNL, everything they did at SNL to 30 Rock. And then I knew they had this, I got like slipped the pilot they had written called Tooken at the time, which was Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'd die to work on this. I just loved the script so much. It was so funny. And there were so many interesting characters, and it was a world I was interested in. And so thankfully they hired me, and I've been working with them ever since. We worked on all 4 seasons, and we did an interactive special for Kimmy Schmidt, and then really I started developing Girls5eva, and they've been great, supportive, awesome producers to work
It
with.
seems like that world of, whether it's comedy writing, whether it's the late night world, it seems from an outsider so supportive and so that, like, you see these, just continuing to see these names that excuse me, are connected to projects after the fact, and connected to projects, like you said, moving into scripted, moving into movies, but then these same kind of names, whether it's 20 names matched in different ways that kind of seem to be together. Did you find, as you got into it, whether it was with Letterman or with Colbert, that did you find that you were supported, and that people kept saying, oh, let's pluck Meredith and pull her along with us, or you doing the same, pulling people along with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you find kind of the people that I think get you the most, and you get them the most. I don't know. And then you just want to keep working with them. I felt very supported at the Colbert Report. There was so much room for like my voice there, and it was great. Like, and I learned so much from everybody that worked there. I was just back there last week, and there's so many people that have worked with Steve. I mean, it's like such a, it's one of the rare jobs that has some job security in this business, where it's like people that have worked with Stephen for 16 years or more. And it's incredible. He's just he's such a great leader and person, that you kind of want to follow him anywhere. And same with Tina and Robert. Like I really, like, my favorite thing ever is to make them laugh, because I just admire them so much, and I think they're the smartest, funniest. So all I want to do is just like serve them up hilarity on little platters. Like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And they seem to like working with me enough that they allow me to
They
do
were like,
that.
yes, it's funny. Yes, it's funny. When they had written the pilot for Kimmy Schmidt, and you are Tooken, which is so funny too. But and then you went to work. So what was that? What was that step to bring them your project? How,
Okay.
was that a long time coming? Were you like, I gotta like get ready to jump off this cliff? Kind of talk through your kind of inner and outer actions of preparing and kind of getting ready
Yeah.
with your own project.
Well, I will say, like, when I was never like somebody that always had my designs on my own thing. Like, not that I didn't want to do it someday, but I felt very invested in the project I was currently working on, which I think that they appreciate. It's like you don't want to just like start there and then be like, can you do you want to make my thing? You don't really
Right,
know me
right.
yet. Like, I wanted to just work on Kimmy Schmidt, and it's also takes a lot of time, so you don't really have time to develop other things. But I loved the whole process. And then when it was over, I was, I was fortunate enough to get a development deal with Universal, where Tina and Robert are also at
Mhm.
Universal. And so it was kind of like, it's kind of like, yeah, what do you have? What do you want to, what's your show if you want to make something? And I,
Mhm.
you know, thought of it. I would just like go and think and think and think and think and think and try to come up with something that I was really asking myself questions like, what do I want to watch? Like, what would get me to watch? And
Mhm.
what do I want to write? And what do I feel like I have standing to write and feel like I have something to say? And so, I just kept coming back to this idea of wanting to write like a bunch of really funny, hilarious women in their 40s in New York, and make it like a real hard comedy, uh, and have all of them be very different and very funny. And then I came up with the idea of the girl group as a, in some ways it's such a fun like candy coating to it that uh, lets you also make pop, take in and satirize pop culture, do all kinds of stories that that come from the news, which I'm used to doing from, my years in
Oh,
late night and stuff. So that's a
yeah.
muscle I already have. And then plus you get to also write about, infuse your own life,
Mhm.
um and also look at the past and write music. I mean, it was just like, this
It
is
was
so
everything.
fun.
Yeah.
And it just feels like a very nimble, when you come up with an idea, I feel like you I had a whole host of ideas, and some of them are like getting traction. But then when I got this one, it was just like so many lights were going off. I was like, bing, bing, bing. Oh, I could do that. I could do that. Oh, you could do that. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you could do that. Oh. And so I just it felt so fertile and
Mhm.
uh and fun. And so then I worked on it a little bit myself, and then one day I brought it to Tina and Robert, and I was like, what do you guys think about an idea like this? And they liked it. And they gave me a few notes, and and then the idea was kind of like, all right, let's try to figure out this. I had rough ideas about where the season could go, but I hammered those out, and then I eventually wrote the pilot before we ever pitched it anywhere, so that when we pitched it, then you're just like, oh, and by the way, here's the pilot script, so
Yeah,
you knew
here's the first
exactly,
step.
places knew exactly what they were buying. uh
Okay,
you know
and this cast, can we talk about this cast?
oh,
Oh my
they're
God,
amazing.
one more amazing than the next. Talk about how did that come together? What was I mean, please tell me this was your dream cast. This is
Oh, well,
so
I mean,
amazing.
they're absolutely incredible.
Wow.
I also feel like Tina Fey gets so much, is really such an important person in this whole,
Entertainment
recipe.
world. Yeah.
She is the one, I mean, because I had written the characters without people attached
Mhm.
initially.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously I had people in mind, and I had thought of Busy and Paula in those two roles because I had been, admirers of them for a long time. And I, you know, had worked with Busy on Kimmy Schmidt. I knew her a
Mhm.
little bit,
Mhm.
and I had met Paulo once or twice,
Yeah,
but
for something
and
like it.
I loved both of them, and I knew they were both like comedy wizards.
Right.
And but I also didn't ever think that they would do it because they lived in LA at the time.
Okay.
So it was never like, oh, this is, when I'm writing, I might be writing thinking about Paula, but I'm knowing that I'm maybe not getting Paula. And so, but for Dawn and Wiki, I wasn't sure. And Tina was like, who I think would be great for Dawn is Sarah Bareilles. She's
Were you
funny.
like, you're like, she's funny? I mean,
Well, Tina had seen Waitress. I hadn't seen Waitress at
okay.
that moment,
Okay.
at that time.
Yeah.
And she was like, she's really natural
Yeah.
and she can carry a joke. And she's also Sarah Bareilles, who can sing and be amazing. And so, and then I watched uh, she co-hosted the Tonys with Josh Groban,
Mhm.
Sarah
Mhm.
Bareilles, and she was
Yeah.
really funny. Like it feels effortless. I mean,
Yeah.
she works very hard, so there may be effort behind it, but it feels effortless. It
Uh-huh.
feels so natural. She's just fantastic. And so we were like, oh my gosh, she's Dawn. She's perfect. And so we went to her first. She was the first person that we cast. And it was during the, pre-vaccine pandemic. We Zoomed with her, and she was like, this scares me. And usually when things scare me, I kind of want to do them. And I'm interested. So we attached her, and then the next person we attached was Renee, who also genius Tina knew that. I mean, we all knew Renee was like, and I mean, Hamilton was a
Right, right.
phenomenon, but I didn't know Renee was funny. Although I did see her in Co-op, the musical, the
Mhm.
documentary now, and she was so funny in it and very committed. Like, you can just tell when someone's really committed in a scene where they're not like trying to be funny, but they're just like really committed to what they're doing. And she was doing that. And I was like, oh yeah, she could be great. And Tina had worked with her on Sisters, the movie that Paul
Oh,
Appel
right,
wrote.
right. Yes,
Renee
yes.
did a part on that movie that eventually got cut because the movie Paula wrote was far too large for movie length. So she ended up her part ended up getting cut out, Renee's part, but they said she was on set, she was really funny and she was improvising and being hilarious. So we met with Renee and she signed on, thankfully. And it's just like so delightful and satisfying to see people realize just how funny Sarah and Renee are, because you didn't know, people
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
really know,
Oh,
and they're incredible, like absolutely incredible. I mean, we knew that about Paula and Busy, but no one also knew that they could sing,
right. There's so much. Yeah, there's
and
so
so
much.
that's also a
Other,
really fun
yeah,
discovery.
it's fun.
Yeah, so that's kind of, and then oh, and with Paula and Busy at the last, we weren't exactly sure who those characters were going to be played by, and it was getting closer to shooting. And because of the pandemic, Paula was in North or South Carolina with um, some family, and she was on the East Coast. And so Tina was like, "Do you want to be maybe in this show?" And she was like, "Okay." And then and Busy, same thing. She had moved to New York during the pandemic, and
Okay,
so
yeah.
all of a sudden she was potentially, somebody we could go to. So then that's how it all came together. It was
Feel like the
a
pieces
whirlwind.
just, yeah, just kind of fell into place. All these things you're like, no, this will never happen. This will never happen. And then these pieces all start to fall. That's amazing.
Yeah, but it really was Tina. Like, Tina is the one who picked the phone up for a lot of these, um uh to kind of bait a lot of these ladies.
How, tell us how, what you were feeling, how it felt when it just, I mean, the response that it got and people loving it, and and then not only that, people loving it and having so much fun with it, but then the accolades come. So can you, was that, I mean, was it, again, was it everything you'd hoped for? Was it, did you
Well,
secretly hope that, were you surprised?
it's something you can't control, really. So it's like, why? I mean, at least this is what I tell myself. It's like, why worry about it too much? But I season one, when we got really like favorable reviews, I was so thrilled. But I was also like, I know this is this is, I can't ever assume that this will happen, because you can't control that stuff. You have no idea like how people will receive the thing that you make. All you can do is make the thing that you like, and hope that it resonates with people. So that was just like a really nice surprise. Um and yeah, I mean, my favorite thing is when people just tell me it makes
Yeah.
them laugh out loud. To me, that's like getting, I don't know, just car and driver award. I don't know, like any kind of like, it just feels so good to make people, when someone else like, oh, it's really, it's hard to make me laugh when I watch something, and your show made me die laughing.
Yeah.
And it's really the cast that is making that happen, but it's yeah, it feels great. It feels great to put something out there that, I mean, there's so much in product, so much of production is problem solving, and there's so many things that go wrong all the
Mhm.
time that I have, that you're like, it it feels so good to be proud of the thing that you made. That's what I feel the best about, is that like I'm really proud of these seasons. And um because it's so hard. I have empathy for everything that is a
Yeah.
flop, that is a stinker, that whatever. Behind everything that like doesn't
Wow.
work is still the hardest working crew. Like, there's so many people that work so hard and care so much. So I
Right.
have tremendous empathy for everybody involved with, like, because it just takes a lot of work, and you put a lot of, you know, you put everything into it.
Yeah, no one
And when
no
it
one
works, it
tries
does
to make
feel a little
something
bit like,
bad.
who knows how it happened.
You're right, right. Yeah, and how it's received and what
Yeah.
it is, but you're right. I mean, nobody tries to make a flop, but nobody,
No, no, of course
there's real
not.
work in there. What, do you think that because this is this your our Girls Five Eva has moved from Peacock and is now at Netflix, which is happening more and more and more.
Mhm.
Do you as a creator going from, and you're too young to be in the world of where it was just linear, just television and movies, but all of the streaming services and all of the the growth of what now the cable channel, or HBO and
Mhm.
Showtime and those have become, and even linear television. I mean, there's amazing shows on FX, which is still just still television, and amazing shows on ABC, NBC, the networks, and then theatrical. How, as a creator, do you is that freeing? Do you feel like there's so many more places for your for projects to go, and more creativity? What you said about one project, like it was too much for it to be just a movie. So
Mhm.
how do you feel like
I
that's a
mean
good thing for you as a writer, as a creator, and others, that there's so many more places and so many more options?
yeah, it's like, it's definitely freeing. I feel like it's gotten a lot of more people into the business.
Mhm.
Opened it up. There's more voices now. Although it's contracting, it's the peak TV kind of bubble burst a
Yeah.
bit, and it's kind of resetting. And so there's some like uncertainty with like different companies buying each other, and you're not sure what's going
Right,
on. But
right, right.
generally, like, it is kind of cool that you feel like you can come up with an idea, and then there's potential homes for it that
Yeah.
maybe didn't exist. You know, the like, you can write a shorter season, or you can write
Mhm.
a thing
Mhm.
that is a limited series, or you can write a TV movie, or and maybe before, it's like the only thing you were thinking about was network. So it's freeing in that way. And I like knowing that, the beauty of the second chance. I mean, we really got to take advantage of that,
Mhm.
with our move to Netflix. It's like,
Mhm.
everyone's just trying to find the right home for the thing that they made. And
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
cool that there are potential opportunities when things can be moved, or to
Mhm.
find the audience they need to find, or what have you.
Well, and I love it's optimistic to me that that the executives and that the corporate world of each one of these companies are also out there looking at things, and not and seeing what's happening with projects, and seeing the potential, and seeing, we were talking about The Stranger, which was a Quibi project, that then came now is on Hulu as a full, and just that there are people out there looking at these projects and saying, oh wait, I heard that this was ending someplace, and I love this, I don't think it's ready to
Mhm.
end, let's take a look at it. Because I
No, it's
think there's
cool.
things can get lost in the shuffle so much, and there's it's not that they're not don't like it or don't want it,
No,
that
there's a
they're, I
lot
mean,
of quality stuff out there. There's
yeah,
so much. Yeah.
and seeing that that, and I know there's been a lot written that the second chances of the girl, of the
No, it
band in the
really is
movie, and the second chances of the, but I
argument taken away.
you really do see that, and you see that moving, and I think it's very hopeful, and I think
Yeah.
it's very I like that, it makes me feel good that someone is paying attention to what's
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. That's true. I
And
agree.
tell us, what does I love, as you were telling your story and talking about Colbert and talking about that, because we hear so many stories that the late night world and that world is not not female friendly, and not and you sound it sounds like you had a great experience and you found your mentors and you
Hmm.
found your people kind of moving through those worlds. Can you talk a little bit about who are those people? What's your team, kind of your team look like now, who has kind of championed you through and who you work with? Are there people that have been around you from beginning to current, that you've kind of built this team around you that you feel
Yeah.
supported and that you feel creative with?
I mean, I one person that has been really with me from the beginning is David Miner, my manager, who, he's been with me for since my first job at Letterman. And he's just like such a, like a, you know, what is it? Something in a storm, something that's attached to the ground.
You call into this in your storm?
Yeah, he's just like he just
Yeah.
he's very normal and wonderful, and and always somebody that I look to for advice, and helps me navigate things, and has brought me some of the best, helped me get the Tina Robert job at
Hmm.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and really brought me into that world, and has helped me. He's been a producer on um, Girls5eva. I mean, it's just great guy. And obviously I already talked about Tina and Robert. They're just, I just admire them so much. And I think one of the things I admire so much about them is that they're really hard workers. First of all, like, there's no shortcut to
Right,
to
right.
and there's no like accident why they do well and they are who they are. That's like, Tina works so hard, Robert works so
Hmm.
hard. And so I think they value like people with a strong work ethic, and so I try to emulate that as much as I can. And um I also think that they roll with the punches really well. They, you good news, bad news, chaos on whatever is happening, even when things are great, like they're very even keel
Hmm.
all the time, in a way that is very enviable and amazing. And I also feel like, Tina's always one of those people who has like a long lens, like she's got the
Hmm.
long game in mind. And
Hmm.
sometimes you just looking at the thing right in front of me and lost a little bit in that, or just like focused too much on that. And I just admire that a lot about her. um she's just really impressive at the way she navigates the
Hmm.
business, um as a writer and a producer and an actor. And but I yeah, Colbert was certainly someone that I just, even though I don't see him very often, I just still feel like I see him all the time because I think about him. Like, I just love him, and
Uh-huh.
and he's just someone that I just feel so grateful that I worked with. I will say that one of the things that I think has been the most fun, or one of the things that I look for in projects that I've become part of, is getting in the beginning.
Mm.
I just feel like you have the best shot of kind of affecting it and
Mhm.
molding it and shaping it. When I was at Letterman, I mean, he was already a legend by the time I was there, and
Right.
it was so in motion. The thing was the thing that it was much harder for me to feel like I'm putting my mark on any, or like that, or that my voice is like super really penetrating or changing anything. And, um, just by the nature of it having been on the air for 20 something years.
Right,
So
right.
uh, I really liked that kind of scrappy, let's do this energy that I had at Best Week Ever. It was a new show.
Mhm.
Same
Mhm.
with Kimmy Schmidt was new. I was
Mhm.
on the Colbert Report. I was there after like the first year,
Yes,
or
all
so.
new.
So it still
Interesting.
had
Yeah.
that, like, that that like we're building this weird sandcastle feel, you know, we all need to pitch it, you know, it just had that. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of people just, this is our shot kind of a feeling. And that's very palpable, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
contagious. And so it really is something that I really like. And so I love a new project. I mean, these days seasons are so short, everything's a new project. So
Yeah, right.
it's like it's
There's so
hard
many
to
shows
avoid,
like,
you know.
no, I want it to go on. I want it to go on.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure there are just places that you can pop in to that
Mhm,
have
mhm.
been on for, you know, like Law and Orders of the world and things
Right,
like
right,
that.
yeah,
But yeah, I really like working on kind of newer things.
newer things.
Yeah.
With I know you're still in it with Girls5eva, and it makes you sound like you like to kind of like you like to live where your feet are. You like to be there. Do you think about, what your next projects would be or could be, and do you want to go back to just writing? I know that's, but or is it like, nope, now that I've created my own show and I've been
Yeah.
it's all been mine. I want to stay with
All
that.
been
Would you go back
mine.
to
It's hilarious.
you do it all by yourself,
No,
Meredith? I
no,
know.
yeah, I'm the only one that works there. There's not 200 people that
Do
are all
do
working
you
their
see
butts off.
yourself working on something
Um,
that you didn't create?
I mean, I'm excited by the idea of creating
Yeah,
more projects. I think that's, now that I've, once you bite off what it's like to be a showrunner, I know it's not for
yeah,
everybody, but
yeah.
it it is, there is this like wonderful thing about being, you know, I'm really used to kind of just, you know, over the years pitching, and then you realize sometimes that you're like, oh, I also get to decide.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and you know, I mean, obviously I'm not the only one that, you know, like I have other executive producers that I run
Mhm,
things by,
mhm.
and you know, if they really hated something, and truly, like, we would, you know, obviously talk about it, and wouldn't necessarily happen if I but I being having that, like, just, there's so many things that I got to do on this show that felt very personal to me, that I don't know that I, you know, could have necessarily brought
Mhm.
to someone else's. Not that because I also really enjoy working on other people's show, and we all do bring so much of ourselves
Yeah.
to these characters, wherever, you know, my room, so many people brought things about themselves and put them, you know, put it into these characters, and it did
Mhm.
feel personal. um so but the volume of it is higher when it's your thing. It's just, you know. So but I love, I mean, I like, for me it's like, who are the people I'm working with and what's the project? It's like, if
Right,
those are
right.
two good things, who cares who
Then you're
created it? It's,
right, right.
you know.
That's um and we love, we're in the middle of Emmy talk and everything that's going on with the show, which is so amazing. And in season 3, I love shows that that have gone on and that are moving through, and they're still so fresh and still having that. So that has to be. Is that fun? Do you like the awards show? Do you like? I mean, obviously you love people accolades for your show, but is it fun to be part of awards talk and going to the shows? Do you like that part of it? Do you like
I
getting
mean,
dressed
it's
up
like,
and
it's
going to
super
the fun
weird.
things?
What?
Do you
What?
like getting dressed up and going to
Oh.
the all the fun award shows?
Um, I mean, when there is something really exciting about, you know, going to the Emmys.
Yeah.
That, you know, when I was in late night, we were, once we went, we would, I had gone a few times, and then when I moved to over to Colbert, we actually won them, which was crazy.
You're like,
And
look,
then,
there's a whole other step.
oh my God, it's like getting a shot of 3 shots of espresso directly into your neck, like after you win. It's crazy. It's really fun. But also, you know, you're not like doing it for any of that, but it's really, it feels lovely to be noticed, and to, you know, to have people, um, to feel that validation. But it's not, obviously, I know it's you can't ever count on any of that in your
No,
career
no.
ever,
And just
because there's
yeah, and just have
so
fun with
much.
it and yeah.
And when if you win, you're like, well, they got it right. And when you lose, you're like, well, what awards are silly, really. But it's fun. I've gotten to bring like my parents and my
Uh-huh.
sisters and stuff back when I was at late night. I definitely brought them. I would have like a lot of people with me uh,
That's so fun.
whenever we went. But and yeah, it's great. It's great, but I'm not attached to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, I what makes me happy is that it's like helpful for the show. It's helpful
Right,
to get
right.
people it noticed, and in this world of like
Mhm.
there are so many great,
Yeah,
there's so many things out there.
yeah.
There's a lot of it's hard to know what to even watch or what's out
Right.
there.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And pay attention to. I remember still like where I was sitting watching the Emmys, and I've been in the industry my whole life, my whole career.
yeah.
And Rami Malek won for Mr. Robot. I don't know how many years ago that was.
Hmm.
Meredith, I hadn't even heard of the show. And I was like,
You're
wait,
like, is this a
what?
joke show?
What is
What
the
is
show?
Mr. Robot? Yeah.
Yeah, and I then obviously went to wrote it down, went to watch
Yeah.
it, and how phenomenal it was. But it's like that. I
It does
exactly what
help.
you're saying. It's like it gets noticed, and I am a consumer. I
Isn't
was
that
in
crazy?
of
Yeah.
movies, and I was at AMC and at Pacific for 30 years, and watch every movie that came out. And obviously, it dribbles into you're watching television shows, you're watching every huge consumer of all things creative. And I was like, how have I never, I mean, how are
Totally
there
that
shows that are talked about that
slipped
you've
through the
never even
cracks.
heard of? So to your point, there are so many wonderful things out there, and it does bring attention to, and bringing attention to your actors, to your
Oh,
actors and to
yeah.
their performances is just
I'd
so,
love
has
to
to be
see
so
them be
rewarding.
recognized.
Um,
They're yeah, I just, when you're on set and you're working with and on top of it, not and I know no one cares really, but they're so nice. Like they're good
yeah,
people. I mean, not no one cares, but I mean no one cares like for awards.
for awards,
Like,
it's a nice
you don't get
crew.
graded on how wonderful everyone is to work with, but it
Yeah.
is like I do think some of that chemistry and some of that feeling does show
Oh,
up on screen, but
sure, sure.
they're just like they're all so talented. They've all worked so hard in this business forever. And you're just
Mhm.
like, yes, of course. I mean, it to me, it's like a no brainer that they should be sweeping all the Emmy.
Right,
Like
right.
they're so good. So I would love to see them get recognized in some way.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I can't believe we are so out of time. We have been talking forever. I love this
Oh
conversation.
my
It's
gosh,
been so
so
great to
fast.
meet you. So I would like, I always kind of end it with when you aren't on set, and I know you are, this is such a busy time. What are you loving right now that you're watching or reading or listening to that kind of is your escape from work?
What am I watching right now? The other night, I was just like my husband was putting my son to bed, and I was just sitting on a beanbag, and I just decided to watch every Between Two Ferns,
Oh,
and I mean
they're
they're
so
pretty
funny.
old now, but I mean
Yeah,
they don't all totally track anymore, but
yeah,
they're it's like I love Zach Galifianakis.
yeah,
I was really loving it. Like it was great.
yeah,
I That's one thing that's pretty cool. You can kind of get anything you
right?
want
Like,
if you
yeah,
feel like
going back and watching
seeing it.
YouTube and yeah, going
Yeah.
back to watch things. I love that. Do you still paint?
I recently bought some little like travel watercolors that where you literally can put the water in the pen in the
Oh, okay,
brush.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So you can take it to a cafe, you can go ever like I keep trying to get my son who's 6 to kind of paint with me in
Uh-huh.
coffee shops, but he did it once. And he does it at home a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So that's the extent of which I'm painting right now.
Okay,
But
okay.
it's relaxing. Like I
Yeah.
realized that so much of, you know, doing like making art, there's like a meditative quality to it.
Mhm.
And I used to make so much of it that and then I stopped. And writing doesn't, I wouldn't say writing has like a meditative quality. I mean, though I love it, it doesn't have that turn up. I mean, you're very focused, which is
Right,
great,
right.
but when you're drawing and painting, there's something that where it's sort of like turns off your lizard brain a little bit and turns off your your thinking
Right.
in
Yeah,
a way
you're
that's
working
really
through.
nice. Yeah.
Well, Meredith, it was so nice to meet you. We have this has
Nice
been
to meet
so
you.
interesting. I love the we've talked for whatever we've talked to a few writers lately, and I love the I tell my son. I have a son, my third son, who he is your. I was laughing because he the other day he's a creative writing major in school.
Oh, nice.
So I had such hope, but the other day. A couple months ago, I heard him talking to someone, and he was like, "Yeah, my brothers and this and that and everything." And I told him, and he goes, "Yeah, I had to teach myself how to swim." Oh my god! And so you said that he's super
Some guy didn't have his
creative.
own.
He can sing. He plays the drums. He's writing and all that. And I was like, "Oh my god!" Now that you're saying this, I'm like, "Did I leave you?"
Listen, don't feel
Yeah,
bad. You can't catch
I
it
left
all,
him.
you know?
I left him. I must have left him on his own, but maybe that helped
I
his creative juices. But he was like, "Yeah, I taught myself how to swim." I'm like, "Oh my god,
It's good
don't
to
tell
be
me
I do think it's good to be left alone a little bit. It fosters
that." Right,
creativity.
right.
'Cause, like, I was alone so much when I was little because my sisters were older, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know, like, I was good at entertaining myself. Like, I
I
think
have
we just
such
get
hope now that creativity will come. You've given me hope when you said that. I was like,
yeah.
oh, he was left alone so much.
No. Well, he learned.
He did. Look
He
at him. Here he
did.
is, a
That's good.
swimmer and a swimmer and a writer.
That's great. My
Well,
son goes the
Meredith,
other night, I go, "What do you wanna be when you grow up?" Because begins with an R. You do it. I'm like, "Writer?" He goes, "Yeah." Like, well,
oh my
it might
god, I
not
love
begin with
it.
an R, but that's so cute.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's funny. Well, thank you so much, Meredith. It was great to meet you, and have a
Nice to
wonderful
meet
rest of your
you.
day.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much,
Thank
Bridget.
you.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and leave a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To stay up to date with In Her Words, join the conversation by following Women in Entertainment on our social channels and subscribe to our weekly newsletter at womenandentertainment.com.